Have you ever wondered how Amish families keep their soil perfectly moist during extreme heat waves, while most gardeners water daily and still watch plants wilt? Most people think drought-proof soil requires expensive amendments, but a simple $3 biological trick makes it possible. The biochar water sponge foundation biochar mixed directly into garden soil creates millions of microscopic sponge-like structures holding water through extreme summer heat. Each particle absorbs 6 times its weight in water during rainfall and releases moisture slowly to roots without evaporation losses. Pennsylvania families produce biochar from brush pile burning since the 1800s. Ohio State University's 2019 soil science research found biochar increasing water retention 40% permanently after single application. Mix 10% biochar into top 12 inches before planting. $3 purchases enough for 50 square feet if farm production proves unavailable. The compost water retention layer. Let me ask you something. What if a single 4-inch compost layer holds 6 times its weight in water, transforming sandy soil into moisture-retaining ground within one season? Compost particles hold water at the molecular level, preventing surface evaporation that bare soil loses constantly during hot days. Indiana communities apply fresh compost every April without exception. Cornell University's 2019 soil amendment research found compost reducing irrigation needs 50% in the first season. Each annual application compounds previous year improvements continuously. After 5 years, compost amendments create permanently drought-resistant soil requiring minimal supplemental irrigation. The deep mulch moisture lock 6 inches of straw mulch prevents 90% of soil evaporation during extreme summer heat waves. Bare soil loses 70% of moisture through evaporation daily during peak heat. Mulch soil retains 90% of identical moisture for 7 full days. Mulch creates microclimate, keeping soil 25 degrees cooler than surrounding air. Michigan State University's 2018 research found deep mulch reducing irrigation frequency 60%. Apply mulch before heat arrives, not after plants show stress. Leave 2-inch gap around stems, preventing crown rot. Single straw bale costs $3, treating 100 square feet completely. The hugelkultur underground water storage, buried wood beneath garden beds, stores hundreds of gallons of water like an underground reservoir, releasing moisture slowly and continuously during the most severe heat waves above. Logs buried 18 inches deep absorb enormous quantities of water during spring rainfall events, storing it for gradual release during summer drought conditions. That stored reservoir releases slowly and consistently during heat waves, feeding plant roots continuously without any irrigation intervention. Wisconsin's 2020 water retention research found hugelkultur beds requiring 70% less total irrigation than standard flat garden beds under identical summer conditions. Logs from the farm woodlot cost nothing beyond basic cutting and hauling labor available during slower winter months. Burying logs in fall allows decomposition beginning naturally before the first spring planting arrives above. Decomposing wood simultaneously feeds developing soil biology, improving overall garden fertility while storing water below. Pennsylvania families have built hugelkultur, drawing from German settlement traditions dating continuously to the 1700s. The first year requires some supplemental watering, as buried wood absorbs initial moisture, establishing its storage capacity fully. The second year, established beds self-water completely through drought periods without any irrigation intervention. The third year produces exceptional fertility from partially decomposed wood alongside the established water storage function. A single hugelkultur bed stores 500 gallons of water in its buried wood structure at zero material cost. The clay pot olla system now, here's what makes this even more effective than any drip irrigation system, costing hundreds of dollars to install and maintain annually. Unglazed clay pots buried beside plants release water slowly and directly into the root zone through natural clay porosity, eliminating surface evaporation entirely. Zero surface evaporation means 95% of every drop of water reaches productive roots rather than disappearing into hot air above the soil surface. Surface irrigation methods lose 70% of applied water to evaporation before it ever penetrates to the root zone where plants actually need it. Ohio State University's 2019 irrigation efficiency research found OLA systems reducing total water consumption by 70% compared to any surface irrigation method. Two 6-inch unglazed clay pots sealed together at their drainage holes cost only $3 total and provide superior moisture delivery. Filling each olla takes only 2 minutes during regular weekly garden rounds without any special equipment. Plants served by buried ollas never experience any drought stress between weekly filling sessions because moisture releases continuously and consistently. Consistent moisture delivery completely prevents blossom end rot and fruit cracking caused by irregular surface watering methods. Indiana communities have used clay ala irrigation continuously since the 1800 settlements for identical reasons. Alas last 20 or more years, requiring absolutely zero maintenance or replacement investment after initial installation. Modern drip irrigation systems cost $200 per row and require annual maintenance and parts replacement every season. Penn State University's 2019 irrigation research found OLA irrigation, extending the productive growing season by 6 full weeks beyond surface-watered plants through superior root development. The living root water pump. Living permanent plant roots pump water upward from deep soil layers, making it available to shallow-rooted annual vegetable crops struggling during surface heat waves. Permanent perennial roots access moisture 6 or more feet below the surface during drought conditions where annual vegetable roots never reach. Perennial roots also create permanent channels through soil that annual crop roots follow downward toward deeper moisture zones. Michigan State University's 2020 root biology research found perennial companion plants increasing annual crop drought survival by 45% through shared root channel networks. Comfrey roots penetrate 6 feet deep consistently, accessing subsoil moisture completely unavailable to standard vegetable root systems. Chopping comfrey leaves and dropping them around annual crops shares the moisture network through decomposing organic matter connections. Dandelion taproots penetrate 10 feet deep, creating the deepest moisture access channels available from any common garden plant. Pennsylvania families never remove dandelions from garden edges, specifically because their deep root channels provide drought escape routes for neighboring shallow vegetable roots. Fruit tree roots penetrate 20 feet deep, creating maximum depth moisture access channels benefiting everything planted nearby. Cornell University's 2019 permaculture research found deep-rooted companion plants reducing drought stress by 55% in adjacent annual crop plantings. Yarrow roots also penetrate deeply, creating moisture channels for neighboring plants throughout the growing season. Plant a permanent perennial border around the entire garden, providing a complete deep root network, serving everything planted inside. The border planting costs only $3 in initial seed investment and establishes permanently without any replanting after the first season. Annual crops planted inside the perennial border access deep moisture through the established channel network, improving measurably every season as roots deepen. The worm network water distribution. Let me ask you something most people never consider. Do earthworm tunnels actually distribute water through garden soil more efficiently than any irrigation system available at any price? Earthworm tunnels create an intricate network distributing water throughout the entire soil profile from surface to deep root zones automatically. Water entering the soil surface follows established worm channels directly to deep root zones rather than pooling on compacted surfaces. Without earthworm channels, 60% of applied surface water runs off compacted soil, never penetrating to where roots exist. With established worm channels, 95% of every drop of water penetrates directly to productive root zones without waste. Ohio State University's 2018 soil hydrology research found earthworm channels increasing water infiltration rates by 300% in biologically active soil compared to compacted alternatives. 300% improvement means 3 times more water from identical rainfall events actually reaches plant roots. Earthworm populations increase dramatically through consistent biological management practices requiring no purchased inputs. Compost applications draw worms from surrounding soil areas into treated garden beds within days. Buried kitchen scraps positioned throughout the garden create concentrated fertility and tunnel zones at multiple locations simultaneously. Worm populations in healthy Amish garden soil consistently reach 500,000 per acre. 500,000 worms create millions of individual water distribution channels working continuously throughout every rainstorm. Dead compacted soil contains only 50,000 worms per acre, creating minimal water distribution capacity. 10 times more worms means 10 times better water distribution during the drought periods when every drop becomes critical. Indiana families measure worm populations annually by counting worms per shovelful as a standard soil health monitoring practice. The mycorrhizal water network mycorrhizal fungi extend effective plant root reach 100 times beyond the physical root system, visible at transplanting, accessing moisture in soil zones that physical roots never reach during their entire productive life. The extended fungal network reaches moisture in distant soil zones, sharing it back to connected plants through underground biological pathways invisible above ground. Fungal networks also share water actively between connected plants during drought stress events. Stressed plants struggling during heat waves receive water support from less stressed neighbors through the shared network without any human intervention. Cornell University's 2020 soil biology research found mycorrhizal networks increasing drought survival rates by 60% in connected plants compared to isolated non-networked individuals. These critical networks get completely destroyed by tilling and require 2 full years to rebuild from scratch after each destruction event. No-till practice protects existing networks, preserving decades of investment made through years of undisturbed biological development. Pennsylvania families never till established garden beds specifically to protect fungal networks developed across multiple growing seasons. Homemade inoculation transfers existing beneficial fungi to new plantings at absolutely zero cost using existing garden resources. Taking a single handful of soil from an established productive bed and mixing it into the new transplant hole transfers complete fungal communities. Existing fungi colonize new transplant roots within 7 days of soil contact, establishing complete network connections before heat stress arrives. Commercial mycorrhizal inoculant products cost $25 per application, providing results identical to this free soil transfer technique. Indiana families inoculate every new transplant using established bed soil without exception throughout the plant season. Wisconsin's 2019 drought research found inoculated plants surviving 3 additional weeks of heat stress compared to non-inoculated plants under identical growing conditions. The green manure water trap cover crops planted immediately after every harvest trap rainfall throughout winter and spring, preventing the devastating moisture loss that leaves bare soil dry and biologically depleted before the following season begins. Bare soil loses 50% of its biological activity and stored moisture within just 2 weeks of its exposure to weather without plant cover protecting it. Cover crops protect essential soil biology while simultaneously storing water for the following spring crop establishment period. Winter rye planted immediately after fall harvest begins trapping and holding moisture from the very first autumn rainfall. Crimson clover fixes 150 pounds of nitrogen per acre, while root systems hold water in protected soil structure throughout winter months. Wisconsin's 2019 cover crop research found covered soil retaining 40% more available moisture in spring compared to bare soil exposed through winter. 40% more spring moisture means significantly less irrigation needed during the most vulnerable seedling establishment stage of the growing season, he says. Spring crop establishment requires more water per plant than any other growth stage, making pre-stored moisture the most valuable resource available at planting time. Pre-stored moisture from cover crop protection eliminates irrigation during this critical establishment period in most seasons. Daikon radish roots penetrate 18 inches deep, creating water storage channels through the entire upper soil profile. After autumn frost kills radish plants, they rot in place, leaving open channels that fill with winter rainfall, storing water underground. Indiana families plant cover crop combinations immediately after every harvest without exception, regardless of season or workload pressure. Michigan State University's 2020 cover crop research found radish channels storing 30 gallons of water per standard garden bed. 30 gallons stored in radish channels provides 2 weeks of irrigation equivalent during the critical spring establishment period. The complete $3 water retention system, the entire $3 investment, purchases one straw bale that initiates the complete biological water retention cascade, protecting the entire garden through extreme summer heat. Every other component in this integrated system gets sourced entirely free from existing farm and household resources already available without additional spending. Biochar from annual brush pile burning costs zero as a standard farm cleanup practice. Compost from garden waste and kitchen scraps costs zero beyond the labor of regular turning. Hugelkultur logs from the farm woodlot cost zero beyond basic cutting and hauling during slower winter periods. Clay ollas get made from locally sourced clay or purchased once at $3, lasting 20 or more years without replacement. The comfrey border planting costs $3 in initial seed, establishing permanently, and expanding without any replanting investment thereafter. Earthworm population building requires only compost applications already being produced for other garden purposes. Mycorrhizal network protection requires only one simple decision to stop tilling established garden beds permanently. Cover crop seed costs $15 per acre, providing complete soil and moisture protection throughout winter months. Cornell University's 2020 Biological Water Retention Economics research found biological systems outperforming irrigation infrastructure by 300% in true cost effectiveness analysis. Commercial drip irrigation systems cost $500 per thousand square feet in initial installation alone before any ongoing maintenance expenses. The complete biological water retention system described throughout this video costs $3 in the first year and $0 in every subsequent year following. Ohio families document zero significant crop losses during severe multi-week heat waves using this complete integrated biological system. Families relying on irrigation infrastructure report system failures and water pressure problems during peak heat demand when the system is needed most critically. Biological water retention systems perform better under stress because they work with natural processes rather than fighting heat with purchased infrastructure. Indiana families completing transition from irrigation to biological management report. The third season biological garden consistently outperforming previously irrigated beds during the most severe heat wave conditions encountered. These 10 methods prove that creating soil holding water like a sponge through extreme heat requires only $3 in initial investment when biological water retention systems replace expensive irrigation infrastructure costing hundreds annually.